seems to be no way. Works and ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. Keep my guide. Hold me closely to his side. Love and strength each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way. God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to his side. With love and strength each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way. I rode way in the wilderness. You lead me. Rivers in the desert I will see. Heaven and earth will fade, but his word remains the same. He will do something new today. Oh, God, make a way where there seems to be no way. Works and ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely by his side. Love and strength each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way. Love and strength each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way.
Nice bridge.
Good to see those of you who chose to come today. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for your goodness. And Father, I pray that in everything that's done and said that you'll be glorified. And Father, I pray if there are folks in the service who've never been saved, that today they be saved. In Jesus' name, amen. So, back in 1973, which was 52 years ago, I was at my first church, had a screened-in front porch in the parsonage, and shared it with the palmetto bugs. Started to say underlooking Trinity Towers, because they were right across the street from the church. And it's an old person's home. Who knew that one day I'd be too old to even go there? But anyway, I went over to the bookstore and bought Things to Come by J. Dwight Pentecost, because I thought I am going to be an expert on prophecy. And I will say, I know more than most. Just saying. I want to toot my own horn. But that's exactly what I just did. Because I've studied and studied and studied over the years. Well, what made it exciting that year, 1973, you may not remember. Anybody remember? You had a 3-year-old? Well, that made it exciting for you. But Egypt and Syria attacked Israel in October. And that was, as a matter of fact, listening to the radio on the front porch there as I was doing my studying. It was an enclosed front porch. And they announced that it looked like Israel was going to fall because they were surrounded. And so I've been studying all this prophecy, and nothing I'd been studying for the last 9 months said that Israel was going to collapse. But I'm going, well, you know, see what else I can study. So I went and got a bite to eat and came back out to the porch, and Egypt and Syria had surrendered. They'd gotten surrounded, and their supplies were cut off, and they surrendered, and Israel had won. I'm going, well, what a difference an hour makes. It was just a remarkable thing. And so since that day, I have never underestimated Israel because you know, just no telling what they're liable to do. One of the things that has happened that I really never expected to see, and I know a lot of you say, well, I saw it coming, and I think you're lying when you say you saw it coming. I didn't realize how much anti-Semitism is in the world. I had no idea. As a matter of fact, when I met someone, they could be a Steen or a Cohen, or it never occurred to me they were Jewish. I mean, I never even thought about it. Never even made any kind of distinction. And the Jewish hatred that has arisen in the last 3 years is just remarkable to me. Had no idea. But, you know, here we are. We're talking about Jesus' ministry, and Jesus is approaching Jerusalem, and they are overlooking Jerusalem. This is the week before his crucifixion. They're overlooking Jerusalem, and Jesus tells them about things that are going to be taking place. And if you want to look at Bible track under Matthew 24, you'll find that, and you'll see that I have all the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John passages side by side so that you can compare them. This discourse takes place the week of the crucifixion, and they're overlooking the temple. And here's what Jesus says. He went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came up to show him the buildings of the temple, which I always thought was kind of funny. They're on the Mount of Olives overlooking the temple, and who popped up and said, "Hey, Jesus, you know what that is?" Okay. And Jesus said to them, "Do you not see all these things? Assuredly I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down." Well, now we're talking about a big, big temple. As a matter of fact, it's not just Solomon's temple. It's a rebuild that had lots of stuff added onto it. They'd been 46 years in the process of being rebuilt from Zerubbabel's temple, and still wasn't finished, but it made it huge. And so Jesus says there won't be one stone left on another that won't be torn down. Now, this is what it looked like, basically, back then. And the porch, so I get there it is. That didn't exist in Solomon's day. This Temple Mount probably didn't exist to that extent. And that's still the shape of the Temple Mount today. And there's the temple, and there's the eastern gate. So that's pretty much what it looked like in Jesus' day. Now, if that's the scale, by the way, that's a 1 to 50 scale that's in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. If you've been there, then you overlooked and you saw this. Now, in the process of seeing this, there's the actual temple. That's the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And over here's the Dome of the Rock. And by the way, inside that, and I've never been able to do anything except look in the door, they used to let people who were non-Muslims go in there, but then they stopped doing that. But anyway, inside there is, they call it the Dome of the Rock. Guess what's in there? Just big rock. I mean, it's just the whole bottom is just an open rock. And if you look right here, right there, that's the Eastern Gate. And if you moved over, now we're standing on the Mount of Olives right here. This is Mount of Olives. And so if you're over here on the Mount of Olives and you look through there, that's lined up with not the temple exactly, but right next to the temple. It's just skewed because of the way we're looking here. Now, that gate right there, that's the Eastern Gate, that has 16 feet of concrete through it and in front of it. Because they said, well, if he's going to come through the Eastern Gate, we're going to make it so he can't come through the Eastern Gate. But wait, we'll add something to it, because the Messiah is not going to be walking through a cemetery, so we're going to build this cemetery right here. Which is funny, because you know Phil Bentley. A lot of you know Phil Bentley. And he went with us to Israel back in 2017. And he flew Delta back and forth, he and Nancy. And so we left to go to Egypt the day before they did. And so they decided to look around, and they went over in here, and you can't really see it, but there are a bunch of places, these are all cemetery plots right here. And right in here, there's some benches, stone benches, and he and Nancy were sitting there, and the police came up to him. And they said, "You're not doing anything wrong, but this is the most photographed place in the world. And you're in everybody's photographs." And so, you know, if you could move along, that'd be swell. And so, or whatever the Hebrew word for swell was. So anyway, that's overlooking the temple right there. And so Jesus and his disciples were up over here somewhere, and they're overlooking the temple. And of course, the temple looked like that in place of that right there, in place of that. And so that's where Jesus then starts his discourse right here, which we call the Olivet Discourse because he was on the Mount of Olives when he did it. Now that's what the walls look like. The walled city, what they call the old city, is this. And so when you go to Israel, everybody goes to the walled city. You go through all the corridors, and you go down the Via Dolorosa, which is where Jesus supposedly walked on the way to the crucifixion. And then the Temple Mount that we saw there, that's right here. And there's the Dome of the Rock right there, and there's that Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, one of the interesting things is the city of David is right down here, outside the wall. And all the guides tell the same story. They say that the Sultan commissioned the rebuilding of the walls around Jerusalem, and the engineer that was appointed to oversee the job, when they discovered that the city of David was down here outside the wall, had him executed. So anyway, today, and I've got pictures of when they were doing it back in 2017, 18, and 19. All 3 years I got pictures of them working dug up the parking lot and they uncovered all these houses, and that was the city of David. That's actually where, and some say that's actually where the temple was, but no, we don't know that for sure. So there we are overlooking the Temple Mount once again from a different point. Only deniers. Just those. And by the way, they're there. Muslims say, "Oh, that's not where the temple was." Now, there's really, that was the city. That was Jerusalem. And that right there was the Eastern Gate. So the fact is this is the spot. Every time they dig in Jerusalem, they come up with Jewish relics. Now, here's why that's important. And they don't ever come up with Muslim relics. Here's why that's important. The Jews were not colonializers. They went back to the land they were from. When the people who hate the Jews say, well, they came in and they overtook the land that belonged to the Arabs. No, they didn't. I'll show you the sequence in a few moments. No, they didn't. They went back to the land that they had, but the Romans ran them out and dispersed them all over the world, and they simply were coming back home because the land was available. I'll show you that shortly. And so they went back home. That's not what a colonializer does. So when they say, well, go back to where you came from, well, that's right here. Here's where we came from. So for some reason, I've got another picture of the Temple Mount there, but there you can see the walls. And Jesus told them, he says, look here. Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. So this issue of false Christs, literally Messiah. Some folks don't know this, but Christ is the Greek word Christos, which is the Greek rendition of the Hebrew word Mashiach, which means Messiah, the anointed one. Literally, Christ means Messiah. And Jesus says, many are going to come and proclaim that they are the Messiah. And by the way, John repeats that in his letter, the letter of John, 1 John, and 2 John once. Now, the false Messiah, Simon Bar Kokhba, in the 2nd century AD, I think it's 133, he led a Jewish revolt against the Roman Empire, and they hailed him as the Messiah. But it turns out that they were ultimately crushed, and because he wasn't successful, they didn't deem that he actually was the Messiah. Then in the 17th century, they had a Jewish rabbi during the Ottoman Empire who claimed to be the long-awaited Jewish Messiah. He got a large army, followed but later converted to Islam. So he wasn't the Messiah. When I was there, I heard this loud music playing. And I followed to find out where the loud music was. Coming out of that van right there. So I had to, this time I wasn't with our guide. I didn't have a guide this time. So I took a picture of it and sent it to Edna, and I said, what is this? I said, well, that's the guy that they thought might be the Messiah. But he died. But they still drive that van around, park at places, and play the music and hand out leaflets. Now, this guy right here, Rabbi, they call him Rebbe Schneerson. Lots of people in the Chabad which is the Jewish sect. They are pretty sure that he was the Messiah. Very smart man. Actually helped start the automobile industry in Israel. He did a bunch of things. Lived in New York City. But held these large rallies. They would come everywhere, and they would chant, "We want Messiah now." We got, should have brought that. "We want Messiah now." And they were just adamant that he was the Messiah, but then he died in 1994. But you know what? A lot of people are pretty sure that he's going to resurrect. So Jesus goes on to tell them, "And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Wars and rumors of wars. These are indications that will lead up to the second coming. Now, you know, I've said it so many times in the last 52 years that it almost sounds hollow to say it. But I can say this, and this has always been true. It's more like it is now than it's ever been before. Okay, scratch your head and think about it. But, wow. You know, some have charted earthquakes, which are mentioned in just a few moments. The occasion of earthquakes is massively more than 30 years ago. Wars and rumors of wars. I asked ChatGPT how many wars are going on right now. And there are 8 major wars around the nation going on right now. But we've also always had wars. And the circumstances for the rapture, or some would say second coming, have been present in most of my lifetime. In 1974, we had an evangelist, Daryl Dunn, that would come and talk about the Brussels, Belgium. He said, "I've been to Brussels, Belgium." And he said, there's a place, it's a city block building, and the sidewalk rumbles around the building. And it's got guards at all the doors. And I asked the guard, I said, "What's in them?" They said, "They call it the Beast." And the address of the building, it was 666. And he said, and I've done some research, and the computer system is capable of holding information on every person in the world. I bought one of those, by the way. But that was 1974. And he was convinced. Actually, he was adamant that the rapture was going to take place in 1978. And here we are in 1974, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here then? I mean,
That's not good.
Yeah. Well, 78 came and went, and no rapture. And so then he said, no, miscalculation, it's 1988. Well, you probably guessed that it didn't happen in 88 either. Either that or we're pretty bad off spiritually if it did. But you know, something's different now. I got thinking this past week, I don't think I would be well adjusted to life, what it'll be like in 10 years. I mean, talk about news, wars and rumors of wars. The fakery on news has gotten overwhelmingly massive. I have trouble believing just about anything that I hear. News is so easily faked, but you know what? You could always You could always try. You could sue a person. But I want to show you something, and I want to tell you that what I'm about to show you comes from a product that's been released recently in the last 2 weeks by Google called VEO3. VO3. Anybody can learn in a day or two to make videos that are absolutely positively fake. And as a matter of fact, when you read Revelation chapter 13, that is exactly what's taking place. This capability like this has never been available before. So I want to show you this. This was made with VEO3 just in the last couple of weeks by an amateur.
Here are today's top news.
Not real.
To ensure only the best words are used,
Turn it
White
up,
House
please.
speech announces new thesaurus with all synonyms replaced by Trump. In shocking speech, White House announces plan to replace all U.S. ambassadors with highly opinionated game show hosts for more entertaining diplomacy.
The White House unveils Truth GPT, an AI that rewrites all social media posts globally to reflect undisputed facts, up tremendously.
White House announces AI will now write all press briefings to ensure 100% factual incomprehensibility.
White House speech reveals plan to resolve international trade deficits by challenging other nations to high-stakes Mar-a-Lago croquet matches.
In a bid to combat misinformation, AI content generators begin watermarking all human-created text with potentially unreliable content warnings.
Mass amnesia event wipes all knowledge of political parties. Voters now choosing candidates based on most trustworthy aura.
White House declares war on excessive bureaucratic pauses, mandates all government employees speak 25% faster.
To cut red tape, White House executive order replaces Federal Register with a single Daily X post. Here's what's up.
AI-driven news aggregators start blending factual reports with algorithmically optimized dramatic embellishments to boost engagement. The White House outlines plan to solve national debt by selling naming rights to individual states to highest corporate bidder. The White House claims to have negotiated a fantastic deal with AI, granting it control over national weather in exchange for always sunny weekends at Mar-a-Lago.
To enhance border security, White House unveils plan to train bald eagles as patriotic aerial surveillance units.
All right, so that is some guy sitting in the basement in his underwear that created that. And, I mean, could you tell that there was nothing? Yeah. Nothing there that was real, nothing. Not the desk, not the furniture, not the people. Nothing was real. It was all done with typing out lines of prompts. All of it done like that. And that's the beginning stages. That's just been out 2 weeks. And so AI is getting so easy to do. What I have found, because I watch things that I'm interested in. I watch, I keep up with some sports by looking at the YouTube videos. A lot of those videos are just made up. I mean, they just didn't even really happen. What they're saying didn't happen. They favor a player and they say something positive about the player, and the player did nothing positive. I mean, NBC and CBS does that too, and CNN. I have completely stopped looking at Drudge Report. I always looked at Drudge Report for years and years and years. You know, back in 1999, I started looking at Drudge Report. And it was always like a conservative perspective. Now they hate conservatives, Drudge Report. And so they'll give a headline on an article, and it'll be so negative to the conservatives, and you actually go to the article, and it's maybe not that negative at all. There is no news that's objective anymore. Not conservative news either, I'm just telling you. There is no objective news. that you can depend on it being objective. You got to go and look at it and compare source with source with source to kind of get to the bottom of the truth. Who's got that much time? Well, the reality is that everything is so easy to fake now that AI has me, and I've been telling you, AI is evil. I mean, I use it every day, but I mean, lots of things are evil that you use while you can use it in a productive way. The landscape for the Antichrist to take over and rule the world is not around the corner. 'Tis here.
Amen. Amen.
I mean, absolutely, it is here. And so I look at this and I say, wow, if this is like this today, in 10 years, can you imagine? Can you imagine? I've always, people talk about, can't wait for the rapture, can't wait for the rapture. I think, well, you know, I've got kids growing up and I got this and I got grandkids and I see that and that, and, you know. Now I'm just saying, all right, bring it on. Yeah. I mean, just bring it on. Because the next 10 years in America are going to be difficult. Now, this issue of AI, I study, I read, I made my living as a programmer for a while. And so when it comes to AI, my son's moving to Austin, Texas to take an AI job. Everything now is moving in the AI direction. As a matter of fact, in just about every trade, and when I say just about every trade, Stephen consulted with a guy who wanted an AI solution for his landscaping business. And so just about everything is going to be AI. I just want them to get rid of those dumb receptionists, those automated attendants. Give them some artificial intelligence. But the reality is, we're living at a strange time. We're living at a juncture. We're living at a juncture where I'm looking and I'm saying, wow, it really would be nice if the rapture took place right away. But that's the other thing that scares me. Or that's the main thing that scares me. This is bad enough. But what about the lack of privacy? Our privacy is well, basically right now it's shot. Facial recognition. Google has cataloged faces of everybody in America, virtually everybody in America. Law enforcement has access to it. The government has access to it, but they haven't released it to the public yet. Now, it's only a matter of time before you'll be wearing your Google glasses, or whoever has. You'll be wearing your Google glasses. You'll see somebody that you've never met before and instantly know what their name is. I need that. Yeah. Yeah, but they'll have it too. I mean, I've always loved technology. I've always been on what I call the bleeding edge of technology, not the leading edge. The bleeding edge. The bleeding edge is I have my iPhone, my computer, and my iPad set up to get the beta releases. People say, well, you shouldn't do that, it's buggy. Yeah, but that's the fun. When it doesn't work right, you know, I really haven't had any problem with it, but could. Always been on that bleeding edge of technology. But I'm telling you, I've seen the bleeding edge, and the next 10 years is going to be tough. your privacy will be gone. You won't be able to walk down the street without the government knowing where you are. Now, depending on who's in charge in Washington is whether they care who you are. But they might. There may be a day where they will have a log of everybody that walks into SouthPointe Bible Fellowship. They'll know who's in the building at any given time. As a matter of fact, Amazon has these Amazon Go stores. And the Amazon Go stores is you palm in, it knows you're in the store. And then they got cameras that just track what you put in the bag. And then when you finish, you just walk out. And there's a cute Saturday Night Live skit on that. But it's a real thing. And that is going to become more and more prevalent. We are living in a scary world where people don't view life like we do, and they can't stand that we don't share their values. And I'm not too crazy about them not sharing my values either, but I don't want to put them in jail. Well, some of them I do. So I look around and I say, you know what, Lord Jesus, come on, I'm ready. I'm ready for this because life is not going to be like it's been. It's going to be way different. Well, I'll rush through these. In 133 AD, the Romans beat the Bar Kokhba rebellion, and they dispersed the Jews all through Europe and everywhere and got rid of them and said, you just can't stay here in the land. And they started calling the land Palestine. And the reason they did that is they did not want the Jews to, in any shape, form, or fashion, lay any kind of claim to the land, so they renamed it. The Zionist movement started in the late 1800s, a guy named Theodore Herzl. And the Zionist movement, having started, was really because Jews everywhere were persecuted in World War I, and their migration back to Israel was just something they just wanted to go back home because it was their home and nobody else wanted them. You know, they didn't want them in Poland, didn't want them anywhere. They just didn't want them. So Britain took over management of the area after the World War I, and in 1939, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem went to visit Hitler. They got pictures of the Grand Mufti with Hitler. And he wanted Hitler to exterminate the Jews that were in Judea. That's what he wanted. But Hitler refused to do it. The Arab League, they all complained to Britain about the Jews. Britain discontinued their role in the area on May 14th, 1948. Now, see the pink up there? I think this is fascinating. See that pink? When Israel declared themselves to be a nation, that's the area that they had dominant population in. Now, there were only 700,000 in Israel altogether, but that was the area where they were the most dominant, and so they declared themselves to be a nation on May 14th, 1948, and then the next day, they got visitors. As you can see right there, Lebanon army, Syrian army, Saudi army, the Jordanian army, the Egyptian army. They all attacked at once. Now here's what they did, and this is not very widely circulated, especially among the Arabs. The Arabs came, these armies, these nations came to the farmers that were living next door to the Jews, and they said, look here, we're going to come in, we are going to slaughter all the Jews. And when we finished, if you'll just get out of the way, then we'll take their farm and give it to you, and you can come back home. Now, that's literally what happened. You can read it all kinds of places. That's what happened. They told the Arabs to move out, and you can have the Jewish settlers' homes. Well, what actually happened was this war went 19 months, and at the end of 19 months, the Jews had whooped all those nations. Well, at that point, the Arabs are afraid to go home. But then they become refugees. Well, they weren't refugees. They left because they wanted to take over completely. The Arabs have never wanted to coexist with Jews. When they talk about from the river to the sea, Palestine must be free, they mean free of Jews. They've had many opportunities to have an opportunity to coexist with the Jews in the land, but every time they said in their charter, in the PLO charter, in Hamas charter, the extermination of Jews is all that they're satisfied with. The kids, if you've seen it, the kids in like primary ages, they have books about killing other Jewish children. That's the kind of stuff they study. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but it's plentiful to find that literature. They do not want peace with Jews. They want the Jews gone. They want the Jews exterminated and removed the land. So on May 14, 1948, the Arabs declared war on them. Israel was there by themselves. Britain did not help them to defend themselves. 19 months later, Israel had prevailed legitimately. They were attacked again in 1956 by Egypt. They planned the planned attack again by all the neighbors, and this was a massive buildup of all their neighbors in 1967. And Israel prevailed once again. And after Israel prevailed, yet in 1973, Syria and Egypt attacked them. And that's the one that I was telling you about at the beginning. So they've never had an opportunity to exist in peace. Israel has never had an opportunity to exist in peace. Now, let me make one more clarification. When it comes to like the American Indians who were displaced by those wicked old white people here in America. The Indians were here first. We get that. The white people came. There's lots of land, but that makes the white people the colonials that just came in and abused them. But the Jews lived in Israel for the last 3,000 years. Longer, 3,500 years. The Jews were there. Dig in Israel. Everything underground is Jewish. That was their home. David was the king over Israel. There was never a Palestinian nation. And so to call the Zionist movement going back home, that's what that means. To call them colonializers is just completely incorrect. And they were willing to coexist with Arabs. But the Arabs turned it down every time. And so the Arab neighbors of Israel have attempted continually to extinguish Jews from Israel, and that's where they get from the river to the sea. Palestinians don't want a two-state solution. They talk about that just because they know it tickles the ears of the Western civilization. They want a one-state solution that is Jewish free. and they will settle for nothing less. There is no solution to this conflict on this side of the rapture. Now, when I say that, I'm sure of this. There is no deal you can work out that will satisfy the Arabs. Now, by the way, 20% of the population of Israel is Arab. They vote. Well, they've got representatives in the Knesset. They are fighting in the military. Yeah, they call them an apartheid state. Well, no, not true at all. Now, the Jews that were, the Arabs that were in the West Bank, Palestinians, and I just, one day I thought, well, this will be fun. Let me just talk to some of them to see what they think of Jews. Every one of them, not a single one, had anything good to say about Jews. They wanted them out, wanted them gone. They don't belong here. They all said that with one voice. A lot of people just don't understand what's going on over there. But here's what I'm firmly convinced. The Palestinians do not want peace with Israel. Israel gave them Gaza, pulled the settlers out. There were no Jews in Gaza, and they sent them money and helped them build an infrastructure. And what they used the money for was building tunnels instead and attacking Israel. So what's the solution? Rapture. It won't be settled before the rapture. It just won't be settled. And people that, even the Republicans that think, well, no, you're wrong. It won't be settled. And I know Mike Huckabee, who's the ambassador, I know he knows better. I know he knows that it won't be settled. He's a good man to have there. It's a conflict that has gone on for thousands of years and won't get better. So, 10 years from now, there will be no privacy. There will be nothing you can depend on. We believe in a free press, right? But it was never as easy as it is right now to circulate stuff to the whole world. And so now, when you can get the quality of what we just saw on the screen there, when you can get that quality online all the time, how are you going to figure out what to believe? I follow the Ukraine-Russia thing. And when something happens, I have to look at 3 or 4 news sources to see if it actually happened. Because a lot of that news gets faked as well. It's a tough world we're living in right now. I'd look for some place to move to, but I don't know where that would be. But here's what I know. I know that the solution is the return of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. And it's never been more ripe than it is right now for that to happen. So be ready. Let's stand together, please, with our heads bowed and our eyes closed.